Almost 24 years old and 12 credit cards later, Mr. Spencer Johnson has taken the time to deep dive into everything credit cards and credit card strategy, as well as cover different parts of overall life, whether that's YouTube and business in general. And also, towards the end, we'll take a little deeper dive into everything the past, the present, and the future for Spencer Johnson. Spencer, I want to thank you from my side for taking the time to sit down with us, and for anyone watching from his audience or even our current audience, welcome. And with that, let's get straight into it. What's going on, everyone? We got Spencer Johnson in the house.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course, man. If you're watching this right now, y'all probably know Spencer, but for anyone who's not, go for it, man.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so most people probably know me from the credit card YouTube space. That's mainly what I talk about on my channel. But there's not much more to say. I've been doing YouTube for, I guess, a couple of years now at this point, almost, which is pretty crazy. And at the time of filming this, I just crossed 15,000. So for a little time capsule, it'd be cool to look back on this.
Congrats.
But yeah, very exciting stuff. And like I said, I'm just happy to be here with you. And for those of y'all that don't know, I don't think we've said this yet, but you traveled here to me to do this interview. So that's like awesome because I don't have to really deal with anything. Brought all the setup, brought the camera, so I'm just excited to talk.
No, of course, man. I've been following your creator conversations.
Yeah.
And I was like, it'd be pretty cool to do the inverse on you.
Yeah.
And drove over from Dallas, last night, and here we are. Like now, it's like past the midday point, but and you showed us around UT Austin and all these good things, so I appreciate that in advance.
Yeah, it's awesome, dude. It's funny because actually people on my channel recently asked to do this. The opposite, somebody interviewed me. So I don't know if you saw that, but I guess you didn't. And it's kind of cool that you just naturally took it upon yourself. So
yeah, man, good timing. So you know how it is.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, let's talk about credit cards and everything credit cards, guys. Because after that, we'll go into everything about business, other topics on YouTube, and honestly, some questions more about you and Spencer Johnson, the now, the future, and all these good things. So with that, I want to start off with this. And so for anyone really quick that doesn't know me, who's a fan of Spencer Johnson's here, I also love credit cards and, make videos about credit cards on YouTube. And, we'll get to 15,000 subs just like Spencer soon enough, over time. And what I want to ask you first is, in terms of everything credit cards, are you team cashback or travel?
Yeah, that's a question I always ask people as well because it kind of sets the foundation for what y'all can expect, at least watching my videos. But I am somebody that's definitely more heavily on team travel. I think a lot of people, especially like our age or our generation, kind of are, it seems, especially those that want to experience the world a little bit more. So that's kind of been the thing for me. Like I think of credit card points and my credit cards in general as like my travel bank. Like I don't want to pay cash for any of my travel, at least for the lodging and the flights, because obviously we got to pay for the food and all that separately. Unless you do a hybrid approach, I guess, cash out some cash back. But for where I'm at right now, I'm at 12 credit cards, and the majority of those are all travel-related credit cards, besides like maybe two. Like my Amazon Business Prime card is cashback, and then my City Custom Cash is technically a cashback card, even though I like to make it a travel card. But yeah, so definitely more team travel, and trying to take a lot of trips this year is my big goal. I know I've documented a few on my channel so far of the trips I've taken, but nothing too crazy. And yeah, so this year I want to take my freedom and actually use it and document it for the channel. So a lot of travel focused stuff.
Love it. What's your favorite travel credit card or otherwise?
I always would say that Chase Sapphire Preferred was my favorite, which people hate because it's just like such a classic answer. But I recently upgraded that to the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which not a lot of people do. I don't know if you have it, but I know you have a lot of credit cards. So
yeah, we'll get there.
But I recently upgraded to that, and it's become quickly my favorite travel credit card.
Okay.
For reference, I've never had the Platinum card because it just hasn't really fit my needs. Honestly, like I wouldn't get probably enough natural value from it for it to make sense. Granted, I have a YouTube channel, so really any card makes sense for me to get at this point. But I also have the Venture X with the Sapphire Reserve. And a lot of people would say, well, why isn't the Venture X your favorite? And to me, might already get controversial here, but I don't think that the Venture X is really a premium travel credit card. Like I think it is in a sense, but I like the Reserve for like the lounge access and stuff that it gives me personally, being in Austin and having a Chase Sapphire lounge and stuff. So for now, it's the Sapphire Reserve, which is actually...
That's very interesting. I've never heard anyone yet call the Venture X not really you said a travel card? Or
a premium travel card.
Travel card. I gotta ask, why is that? What is the main difference that makes, let's say, excuse me, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, or even Preferred, if you consider that a premium travel card, or Amex Platinum versus the Venture X? Like, what's the big difference there for you?
Yeah, so this is how I would break it down. I think the Sapphire Preferred, I would not. They're gonna hate me if I said that. I think it's like a mid-tier travel credit card, like a beginner travel credit card.
I don't disagree, by the way.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
And then I think the Venture X is an in-between. I think it's like a mid-tier premium travel credit card, which is too many words probably to throw onto it, but that's what I keep calling it because, yes, the annual fee is one in its own category. The $395 is not the same as the Platinum that has a $695 annual fee, and even the Sapphire Reserve is $550. So it's a lot lower. It's really easy to get positive value from, but you're locked into Capital One's travel portal. It really doesn't give you much on the side of premium travel other than the lounge access. But the lounge access is just really priority pass in the Capital One lounges, which are good if you have one in your airport. But the priority pass that I have on my reserve is better. It gets me into the spas and the restaurants and all that too. So for me, I feel like it's a good step towards getting like a platinum card, for example, to see if you like that access and stuff like that. Because yeah, but other than that, I haven't found it to be like a life-changing card for me in the travel sense. Besides, like, I guess TSA pre-check, but that's like every credit card has that, travel credit card. So
I really like the way you explained that, because to me it sounds almost like, I mean, because you're able to like break even more easily, it makes it almost not as premium. In other words, like maybe there's not a slew of benefits that make it like a premium clientele, like your Equinox credits with like the Amex Platinum or Saks Fifth Avenue if you don't really shop there and you're trying to like, oh, you know, am I really getting value of these $50 every 6 months? But I think I see where you're coming from. So this is like a side question, but the Hilton Aspire has a $550 annual fee.
Now, I forgot about that.
They just got updated for anyone who's watching more of recent. And so what do you think about that? Is that like a premium travel card? I mean, from what we're kind of talking about, I know it's more specific towards one program, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing for me is like I do think it's a premium travel credit card for sure, but I would obviously categorize it as a premium like hotel credit card. It does give you other accesses that a normal like a Platinum would give you, but you're also only earning points in the Hilton ecosystem, which can't be used for anything other than Hilton's really for good value, I guess.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not like, I think if you obviously have to love staying at Hilton's to get that card. You can get the Amex Platinum with wanting to stay at any property, you know what I mean? Or the Sapphire Reserve. So that's like how I differentiate it between like the transferable currency credit cards and the hotel and airline credit cards. So I think of that as like a supplement to maybe another premium travel credit card that you have if you really loved Hilton. Like that's how I would use it. But then there's people out there that have like 5 of them and they love them. So it's like, I mean, in that sense, I can see the argument for it just being like the only card you need, premium travel-wise, but that's probably not how I would use it.
Yeah, it really comes down to like credit card strategy, basically.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Question for you. And I'm also team travel, just like you, with credit cards. So something fun we can do is, what if we're vouching for team cashback? And I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'll share as well. So I had the Amex Platinum, the Charles Schwab version. Back in the day, it was 1.25 cents per point you had to redeem as cash in your Charles Schwab brokerage account, and you can do whatever you want from there, cash out, invest, etc. Now it's 1 to 1.1 cents per point. So in other words, like 5x is 5.5 exact percent cash back. So apart from that example, and then maybe, with your other cards with 5% rotating categories, we got 5% cash back or otherwise, I guess someone like maybe in your profile or your credit card persona, yourself and myself in the same regard, what would make us maybe, whether you're, single now or you maybe have somebody else down the line or maybe a full family down the line, like would that change things from a cashback versus travel scenario? And I'm just thinking, talking through it, like what would make us or force us to go towards cashback because it actually made that much more sense?
Yeah, I think to me, it would all come down to simplicity. Like whenever you're ready to just simplify a setup and not really think about redemptions and not worry about that kind of stuff, like that's when cashback is super appealing. Like for example, Stan the Credit Frog, I talk about him all the time because I really like his strategy behind these things, and he's been doing this a little bit longer than me, but he's like kind of now shifted more towards team cashback because of that simplicity and the fact that he just wants to downsize his portfolio. But also, that's why I love ecosystems like Chase, for example, why I recommend Chase credit cards, because no matter who you are, you have the ability to redeem in what fashion you want, which for Amex, like you just are talking about, is not the case, which is why I don't personally always recommend Amex credit cards or why I think you should be hesitant. But yeah, I think for me, whenever I have a family, I still think I will be on team travel at least for a while, because that would, again, be like our travel bank. Like if I had 500,000 Amex points, that could get my family a really nice trip. So it's like, that would be cool to do. But I think it would get to the point where I'm just like I don't even know how you are able to manage all the cards you have, but I'd probably get to the point where I want to simplify at some point, especially when it gets closer to retirement and stuff, and that's way down the line. But if you're thinking about like the actual time value of your money to really like get these cent per point redemptions, like I think to a point it becomes like a game that you don't want to play anymore. But that's so far down the line for me that I see myself being on team travel for a while.
No.
But what about you?
Yeah, man, for me, like, I think simply put, and right before I get into it, to explain like how I manage so many cards, it's honestly the same kind of thing probably you see, like where you'll have so many accounts under your Amex account, or like all your cards under your Chase account. So like, example, if I have 3 Chase Freedom Flexes, which I do, that's like 3 cards right there, but in one profile, and then there's like a lot more. So it's not as hard as it seems, but like all these credits / the coupons we talk about in Amex, with them, you know, that gets kind of like annoying, or like if you're really tracking like what's changing in the news and otherwise, that's like its own game, and you really have to be focused on it. And if you're like concentrating anywhere else, like things could be changing in the background, and then it's like, what's really going on here? Like, is it even like a hobby, game, passion? What's really going on?
Addiction.
Right? Yeah, right.
That's why I always tell people I have a credit card addiction.
I like that, and it's true, man. Like, I you know, everyone loves the sign-up bonuses, and you know how it is.
It's a profitable addiction, though, at least.
Exactly, as long as you do things right, you know, pay your bills in full on time, the same stuff we know. Right. But coming back to
when you would switch to team cashback, if you
I think the way I've been thinking about it, and maybe it's because like I've been thinking about, okay, hey, in the future there will be like a family that you know exists, you know, with you know me as you know I'm there. So what I mean to say is, like Delta cards, for example, where you can get like with like the Delta Gold, for example, and other cards in the Delta line, you can get like you and up to 8 others like free baggage, right? Like your first free check bag. So I look at that perspective as, well, longer term travel anyways makes sense. Actually, a lot of the fees that I tend to pay for all these travel cards, I realize, dang, if I'm alone, it's like I have to think, like, how am I going to break even? How's it going to work? Blah, blah, blah. But when you think about the benefits of all these cards, and you have even just a player 2, or even like more than that, or like I have all my family, like my direct family, my mother, father, brother, as authorized users on the Capital One Venture X, because it's free and all the perks that come with it. So I do realize that like longer term team travel actually makes sense. But if you want a minimal setup, or like to, you know, cut things down, then actually cashback. But cashback specifically with no annual fee cards, that combo is super important, or else, you know, unless you have like a niche edge case or somehow you're trying to extract value, that's great, but, you know. I think the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve is the best niche case. I think that card is really good, and nobody really talks about it, besides my buddy Stan once again. But that card I think is one. But yeah, you bring up a really good point, like, and that's another reason that the Venture X does get a lot of love, and why I don't personally find it. Remember, this is all my personal opinion. I'm not saying like this is all should be true for you, man. Right? I love it. But the Venture X, I say, is mid-tier premium to me, but to a person that has, you know, a spouse and 2 kids that wants to get into all the Priority Pass lounges, all the Capital One lounges, they're saving so much money by getting that card compared to like the Reserve or the Platinum. So then it becomes a really premium card for them. So yeah, everybody's situation is a little bit different, but that is a good point, that with a family, theoretically the credits are way more valuable, or should be, to you. Or you shouldn't be getting the card, I guess, but... Right. Yeah. So this question, and it's something I wanted to ask you, because I know you're a smart man.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I am making up this question on the spot. That's how genius of a question this is. But I'm seeing the value here, and so all jokes aside, I'd love to go through a simple exercise, and it can be a team working activity between you and me, where we'll pick one card, and for like a general population, right, of like if they can only have one card, what is the number one top credit card, the best credit card of 2024, right? And then we're going to go through, what if it was a 2-card setup? What does that setup look like? What if it was 3? What if it was 4? We don't need to get into 5, because that's its own long form video. So
that'd be a fun video to make.
We can just talk it out and see where things go.
Yeah, I'd be interested. You have way more experience with with a number of credit cards than I do, so maybe you could speak better to it. Sure. But do you have an idea off the top of your head for a 1-card setup?
1-card setup, I would just say the Capital One Venture X, assuming, you know, the person gets approved and all that good stuff. The annual fee pays for itself. It's a no-brainer. You get 2x everywhere. Do I like the prices and all the limitations of like not really earning miles and points and loyalty status if I book my airlines and hotels and rental cars through the portal? Clearly, like, obviously not. But I look at it like a cashback focused card with the capability to take your points, transfer them to whatever limited transfer partners they have. Maybe they're not the sexiest, like Delta from Amex, or on Chase's side, like with Hyatt. But hey, it's like not the end of the world. And what can you do? But that is like not a bad idea versus like all the other no annual fee 2% earning cards out there.
Yeah. The one thing though with the Ventrex, the cashback aspect of it, you'd have to add a different card to. Can you even do cashback from that card?
So like you can, what I've noticed, and it's off the top of my head, but I think statement credit is like 50% off. So like 2% is 1%, or you get the full value, right? Like if you get 2% or 2x miles, it's 2% towards travel through the portal. That's
right. So that's the only way to, that's the other limitation is if somebody was team cashback, the Ventrex wouldn't be the most ideal.
True.
I will take exactly what I just said though. I think for a one card setup that the US Bank Altitude Reserve actually, it could be the best out there. It's just in a weird ecosystem that people aren't used to.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can do like real-time rewards at 1.5 cents per point, that brings all of your earning categories up by 50%. Like that's you're earning, and it's also 3x on mobile wallets already, which turns into 4.5.
Yeah.
With a 50%
Can you go over
boost.
like the high level of the card?
Yeah, I'm not like as familiar with it, but basically I know that the biggest thing that pulls people to it is that it gives you 3x on mobile wallet purchases, which that's basically everything.
Is it uncapped?
I think so, unless you know differently. I'm pretty sure it's an uncapped category. And then it does like 5x on travel and stuff like that too. Like it's a good card in general, but also you're able to redeem for 50% more value as like a statement credit, or at least like the real-time rewards or something. Like you can pay off your balance with points at a 50% boost. So that changes the 3x mobile wallet category to 4.5 on everything, basically.
Dang.
Like that's a crazy value. And then that's also, I think, 50% extra through the portal. So for travel, you still get that boost and stuff like that. You're going to have to fact check that, but that's like a rough outline of my understanding of it.
No, you're good. And I want to butt in here because like of all the cards I have, dude, US Bank is one of the bigger, like you can say lenders or issuers, which like I got my first US Bank approval like a few months ago.
Really?
And it's not even one of your like Altitude Reserves or like all of their cards. It was the Kroger MasterCard.
Okay.
Where you get...
I've heard that's good.
No, it's great. I learned it from Eric Gao. So, he makes credit card content and other content on YouTube. And he basically was saying, hey, the Kroger MasterCard, the beautiful part about it is that you get 5% on mobile wallet purchases up to $3,000 specifically. Hence, I asked you, like, is there a cap with the US Bank version of this equivalent?
So. Yeah.
But no annual fee and all that good stuff. But anyhow, okay, so...
That's one card,
That's one card. Okay. So now if it's like a two setup, is it like a second US Bank card to your knowledge? Or
no, because with US Bank, the ecosystem, I'm almost positive that you cannot transfer between cards. You can't put points to... Like, you can't pull points from the US Bank Cash Plus to the Altitude Reserve and then redeem. Like, I don't think you can do that. Again, fact check this. Also, maybe later date, it's different. But so I wouldn't build like a real ecosystem out of US Bank. I think that the one card setup, it's great. But as for an ecosystem, I do think that the best duo on the market right now is, going off what you said, would be the Capital One duo. Because I do think that the combination of the Saver One with the Ventrex is really powerful. Because the Saver One's no annual fee. It adds a ton of 3x categories. You can transfer those points to the Ventrex and then out to partners. So you're earning a lot of value for two cards. And for technically the lowest annual fee of the combined setup. Besides like this, Citi or Chase duos or trifectas as well. But what do you think about that?
I think from an annual fee burden setup, I think what you said is, it's 100% accurate, right? Like the no effective annual fee of the Ventrex, no annual fee on the Saver One version. Right. So you can't beat it. I think maybe I'm a Chase loyalist.
Yeah, I am.
So I'd love a CSR, like a Chase Sapphire Reserve. Obviously, you gotta, make it make sense for you. Like for me, with like getting too deep in the weeds, like I would just say, like the value I'm getting is their Lyft promotion of 10x per dollar spent, and I've been doing a lot of just like taking the Lyft, from, and obviously, within reason it being cheaper than Uber, comparable, etc. But what I'm trying to get at is the CSP. It's like, again, after that $50 hotel credit, effective annual fee of $45, like, can it make sense for you? But combining that with like a Freedom Unlimited, for example, or, if it makes sense, a Freedom Flex where you're getting 5% on those rotating categories and 1x everywhere else, you can, live with that, and move on with your day. That could make sense, right? And obviously valuing basically the partner network that would be available to you. So for me, like a different way to look at it is with Capital One, the same way, like there's no Hyatt basically, like you get with Chase. I understand with Built and like Wells Fargo side, they do have it. Their autograph collection is going to introduce new transfer partners coming up and everything. But coming full circle, maybe because I'm a Chase loyalist, I would probably say, hey, Freedom Unlimited, go back to the basics, like Freedom Unlimited and like a CSP, like just bare bones, you know?
That's my most recommended duo to anybody like close to me or even people that reach out, like because it's just so simple. And like I said, the reason I think Chase is my favorite lender, I think the best lender, again, for my situation, I guess, is because it gives you the most flexibility in redemption methods.
Yeah.
So I would never recommend a Amex Platinum and an Amex Gold card to somebody. I would just never do that unless I knew that they like spent a ton of money and they could use it. The same thing goes with the Venture X, even like people that don't understand really how to get effective value. Like if they just don't want to use the portal, they don't know how. The CSP is just so easy. The $95 wipes itself with one transfer out a year with the amount you would save on points and stuff. So like, to me, that's like the most no-brainer setup, and a good catch-all with a bit of travel and dining and stuff is good. But I know the overlapping categories people get annoyed at, but still, it's like so simple.
It's what it is. Yeah. All right, let's keep it going then. 3 cards.
3 cards.
So I'll start off with this one. Traditionally, back in the day, like the Amex trifecta or the Chase trifecta, those were like the hallmark of, wow, a 3-card setup. And I think it was because maybe the game was simpler back then, maybe no one was talking about it, whatever.
Right.
And I know that like there could be 3 individual cards from like 3 totally different lenders that could make this beautiful trifecta that we could get into. So without naming like those obvious trifectas, unless we have like some real merit for them, is kind of the direction I'm thinking. And I guess for myself, like starting off, I would think about it like process oriented wise. So like, hey, miscellaneous spend, like what is that anchor? Maybe where you're spending the most, where's that anchor versus like, you know, just assuming people spend on dining the most. Maybe they spend, I mean, this is going to be niche, right? Like if you actually spend at Lowe's the most, go get that Lowe's credit card probably makes sense for you. Or like hit a bunch of sign-up bonuses. But for a 3-card setup day to day, I still would have the Venture X there just because like it's not really a cost, but it gives me priority pass without the feeling of, you know, hey, if I want to add an authorized user, like in my situation for someone, like if I do have the Chase Sapphire Reserve and Amex Platinum, but I would choose to add an AU on the Capital One Venture X because of like pricing, simply put, right, without like looking at all the other benefits and otherwise. So probably the Venture X. I mean, if it's like, this is like, we're going to answer this to everybody, like the average person, I would still say the Venture X, you know, it's not rocket science to figure out. Maybe like a rotating category card, like a Chase Freedom Flex, to be honest with you, just because it's nice to have, because like Discover it is pure cash back in that way, like rotating category wise. Yeah, the City Custom Cash actually is not a bad option, but if you're like a heavy spender of family expenses, maybe that's not enough.
Right.
And then the 3rd card, I'm still thinking it through, but if you want to...
Yeah, so this is what I would say going off of your setup is the second that you add a Chase credit card, you need another higher tier Chase card to transfer out. If you want to be on team travel.
Agreed.
Cashback, you can build a crazy 3-card setup. Like you just get like the Saver one, a rotating category, and then a flat, and you're good, basically. But yeah, for team travel, the second you introduce one Chase card, you got to get like the Sapphire Preferred so you can get those points out. So that's where that would kind of come in. I think if you don't mind me jumping to what I was thinking, because I actually don't think it's a good answer now that I was thinking about it.
It's okay.
But I do think that one that I, again, recommend a lot of people is the same Freedom Unlimited Sapphire Preferred. And then for people our age, the biggest expense is rent. So then you add the Built MasterCard in there. That's a ton of overlapping categories, which I realize, like I know people are going to hate that. But you still get a respectable rate on all of your spend. And you're also capturing rent in that, which is a huge expense for people. And they have mutual transfer partners like Hyatt or Air Canada or whoever that you can transfer between. So it's kind of all the same point ecosystem. The problem with getting 3 from different lenders is that if they don't have mutual transfer partners, then you're splitting your spend sometimes too much for the normal person, unless you're spending a ton of money. So that's like where I'm a little bit hesitant with, or that's why I do think that a 3-card setup from one lender actually is valuable because your spend is going into one account, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess that would be one for me. The Freedom Unlimited, Sapphire Preferred, and Built MasterCard is a decent setup. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no. Actually, no, I like what you said because like that opens my eyes into maybe like a different way to look at it, where I would look at it like leverage your setup. So like, for example, if we have the Venture X, so we have benefits of like all the travel benefits without needing to hold like a Chase Sapphire Reserve just to complement a Chase Freedom Flex or a CSP in that case. And then the Built MasterCard by Wells Fargo, like the way I look at it is like, again, this is now getting specific if like you love Air France or the Flying Blue program, where you have like KLM Airlines, they have partners with like your Built, Chase, Amex, and like City thank you points.
I think Capital One too. No, I think it's like literally all of them. Yeah,
I think it's literally all of them. Yeah. So like from that regard, that's like looking at it in that fashion. But yeah, I think mixing the both. So like what I'm getting at again to answer your question, not really a question, but talking through it as maybe like just those two: CSP, Chase Freedom Flex. And then built like versus a Capital One Venturex. But yeah, it's like somewhere.
If you want more travel benefits, then Venturex for sure. And yeah, that's a fun conversation because I think everybody would have a different answer, right? Yeah. Theoretically, the cashback side, like I said, I think is more fun. I've had RJ on the channel, RJ Financial, to like help me build a good cashback. Like, what's the best cashback card for each category, and that's fun. Yeah. So you build like a 20-card cashback setup, one for every category, and it's like that's kind of cool. But
and it's like probably low like burn.
No annual fees. Yeah, it's like this is crazy, but haven't gotten into that yet.
Yeah. So I'm gonna jump ahead probably to the 4-card setup being maybe like again a mix of an Amex trifecta and something else, or like a Chase trifecta and a supplemental card. So maybe like what we're talking through is like a build MasterCard, Capital One Venturex, and then like 2 of Chase cards, one with a transferable capability and no annual fees.
Yeah, so I think the built card could be a great 4th one too. Like if you had the Venturex and the Chase Duo,
I agree.
Then you add the built card to capture rent. Because in reality, I want to make a video about this too. Because the built card is great. It's the only card that allows you to earn on rent. But if you're spending $1,000 a month on rent and that's really all you put on that card, it's 12,000 points a year.
Yeah.
That's not moving the needle.
That's literally what I think every single time. I'm like, great, you're spending, but it's like, okay, you're also capped at your spending.
Yeah.
Like, what else can you do? And I'm in a very interesting situation with the built MasterCard where I wasn't extended a huge credit limit.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I haven't even mentioned on the channel, but I haven't.
Yeah. So, and with that regard, like I was like, well, hey, like it's not as low as 500, but it's like mid 2s, like 2,500 basically.
Oh wow, that's surprising.
Which is like, it is what it is. Yeah. I understand. And I'm not worried about it, but let's say my rent to maximize that built rent amount is like 4,166 per month equal to 50,000 points. But like if your rent's 4K and you get the built MasterCard, like with that intention, what I'm getting at is like I'm sure there's someone who applied who was like, dang, my credit limit doesn't even cover my rent amount, and now they're like, can they play partial or not? And maybe their whatever their building doesn't take like partial payments.
Yeah.
Total niche case scenario, but there's something I think through at the time. So
I think that they have fixed that though, because I think someone might comment this, because the way that it works now, at least whenever I applied, and I think it might have been this way since the start, but I wasn't familiar enough, is that they give you a built rent account, so it acts as an ACH to where it never hits your credit limit. So that helps. So, but you still, so that I guess your credit limit wouldn't stop you there, which is good. But
no, you're really right. So that's been there since whenever. I have noticed it. I haven't done it that way on purpose. I'll check out with the card just out of habit, maybe.
Yeah.
Instead of drafting, but
because then that'll give you the transaction fees if you do the card. But if you use the rent, the ACH, that's how they wipe the transaction fees. So it's like a
gotcha.
Which is kind of crazy that you have to like. I figured this out once I applied because it's it is a complex system because nobody's done it before. But once you figure it out, I mean, it's a sweet card. But yeah, like I said, I mean, maybe you're getting one Hyatt night a year.
Right, if you did the math, yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it is a good card, but I think I like making contrarian views of cards. Like I've made videos about why the Venturex is not that good, why the Amex Gold card is not that good. I think I'm gonna make one about the built card. I need to add that to my calendar, so remind me whenever you're watching this back.
No, definitely. And like just before we segue off the build topic, I pay my rent by the check method they have in the app.
Then that works.
So that's where also that comes into play. So just to close that loop.
Yeah, that's smart. How does that hit your credit limit when you do it that way?
Yeah, it hits the credit limit. But again, like let's say I wanted to write a check through the ACH method, I just haven't explored that.
Yeah.
So like if it's $25 and $1, $2,501, like how would that look like? I don't know.
Yeah.
So and then you just pay off your credit limit like normal and all that good stuff. So interesting. Okay. So let me ask you something.
Okay.
About credit cards. If you could have one card, don't worry about approvals, maybe you already have it, right? Like what is that card you want? No ramifications. Forget about credit score. If you want like $100 million limit, you can have it. Right. Whatever it is, but what card is that? Doesn't matter, like, period. You'll get approved.
Yeah. See, you mean like luxury cards?
It could be anything. Ask, like literally ask and you shall receive.
Okay.
You tell it to me, you'll get it. Like,
I think,
what is that card?
I love Chase way too much to not have it be in the Chase ecosystem. I like their ecosystem way too much. I don't love a bank, but they're on my top of my list. And so I would probably take the step up from the reserve, being the JP Morgan, whatever it
Palladium,
is. Yeah, that's what it used to be called. I think it's like the JP Morgan, literally like reserve at this point or something like that.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
But yeah, probably that one, because I do think it gives you a lot better benefits, and then it gives you access to their like concierge. But I think you have to have like 10 million in holdings with them.
Yeah, they changed it to like it's the CPC program, Chase Private Client. I think it went from 10 mil down to like all the way to 1 mil, then to 250K last I heard. But it's still like a substantial amount.
Yeah. I wonder if the card is different though, because the private client, I do think you can get it like almost like very low stages now. But I don't know about the card. But that would be the question.
I don't either.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think it has the same annual fee as the reserve, but gives you better benefits. So, and it's in the Chase ecosystem.
This is like that one where you have like the Sapphire banking. You need 75K in deposits minimum.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah,
something like that, right?
Yeah,
cool.
It's one that I really have never talked about before. Maybe in my black card video, but
yeah. What's the big pull like other than the concierge service? Like, is there something else? Like,
I guess it was more that I was going to say the Sapphire Reserve probably, because I think that fits my needs a lot right now. But I was like, oh wait, but there's one that's even better. I don't know everything that it gives you, but I know that it gives you better concierge, and I think the earning categories might actually be the same. Someone's going to fact check us, but
yeah.
I also think it looks pretty sweet.
Fair.
If we're talking like luxury here, but also something that I would get a ton of use out of, because now that I've added the reserve, I see it as being like my most valuable card. Like it gives me 3x on dining and travel. It gives you more than that, but even just those two categories alone are like a lot of my spending these days.
Yeah.
And 3x Chase points to me compared to 4x Amex points is like on the gold card is not that big of a difference. And I like Chase's ecosystem more. I always need more Chase points. So to me, that's the card that has been benefiting me the most in the short time I've had it. So What about you?
Me? Oh man, it's like a gripe of mine.
Yeah.
So I always wanted, and I'll get into why, and it's like not even the best card.
Yeah.
But I think it's not an ego thing either, but it could be. So the Hyatt card by Chase, as straightforward as it sounds, if you have basic status, you have your 5x Hyatt points you earn per dollar with like spending with Hyatt, even if you don't have the card.
Right.
If you have the card, you get 4x Hyatt points, which is like basically one more than the 3x you can earn with like a Chase Sapphire Preferred Reserve, like, or even the no annual fee versions, like on that 3x category. You got, you know what I'm saying. So when you have the premium one, you can transfer it to Hyatt. So it was always my thinking, like, man, I'm missing out on that one extra point. And back in the day, I'm talking I'm talking like, I don't know, man, like 6, 7, like, man, I don't even know that range. Okay, 5+ years. I called a reconsideration line after I was denied, and I was, I think, below 524 for one of the last times in my life.
Yeah.
And I said, please, can I have this? And, I said, if there's any issue, just move over some credit from another card. Like, just make it happen. It's not a big deal. I'm not asking for new credit. And, eventually, I didn't know exactly how to present my case well without just coming off like, I just want this card. Can you please give it to me? Or else, like, see what happens. Right. But, like, that was the vibe I think I was giving off. And so she was like, person on the other line, long story short, I don't have it. So I've always wanted it. And it's for that edge case of just +1 point, but like the theoretical true answer, like for anyone else that's watching and not in this predicament, man, I would say like an Amex like business platinum, or some type of like strong business card which has, I don't mind the credits, like if you use them obviously, but I guess top of mind there's nothing like, I really want that card, where like other than like the ego driven response, but Barclays has a lot of beautiful cards, man.
Like the Aviator Red and all that too.
Yes, yeah. So like if you could get a second Aviator Red, like why not? Like one purchase, you get 60K miles just like that. At the time of recording, I think like applications have stopped for whatever reason it is, but yeah, I think nothing extra to append to my strategy. Yeah. Like a second custom cash would be cool. Yeah. Just because, like...
I see what you're saying.
Other variations, just to be able to... I guess the capability for me to earn points is what I'm looking for, versus being maxed out or capped out by just spend thresholds.
Right.
And it's not about just spending money just to spend it, but like future, like how the setup could be optimally is like, I look at credit cards like, hey, if I have a funnel, like an oil funnel you put in your car, if that funnel is so big and you also have expense that's so big that's like justifiable in business expenses, not just spending on crap, then you're just extracting through that funnel, like whatever catches on is all the points and the miles. And so that's kind of how I look at it. I know that doesn't answer the direct question, but...
No, I think it's interesting perspective change too, because for you're sitting with so many credit cards that every point matters. For me, I'm thinking of it from my perspective, where it's like the earn on spend to me is just like so broad. Like I still like think of it as the broadest catch that you can get, but for you, it's like I need this very specific 1 point on this category, which is kind of cool. I'll get there one day. But.
No, like because Luke's Points and Miles has a beautiful video, which I made like a, reaction type of equivalent,
right,
where he goes over like 5 different types of credit card like personas, and there were, I don't remember all of them, but mine was basically the calculator or the over optimizer, where like I'll get a card just for that 1 point, and it's like you don't need it, you know, but later, one fine day you may remember. Are you going to remember the extra 40 points you got after a freaking 1,000 or whatever that math is of spending?
Yeah.
Maybe not, right? But I guess it's $40 to spend for 40 points.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. So, all right, here's the thing. So I got an interesting question, and I wanted to ask a lot of other creators the same question. I was thinking of making a compilation video, but I'm too eager to ask this question. So you're the first one that's going to hear this question, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can answer it in any which way. And it's a take it or leave it offer. You can only choose one, and you're glad to go as deep as you want. And this will segue us into our next non-credit card, pure related topic. Here it goes. 5 million points, any currency, your wish, or miles, whatever you want to call it, versus right here, right now, I'm not Mr. Beast, but $50,000 cash.
That is tough. I think.
And talk it through. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I could literally take both sides of it and probably argue it like to the death almost. Like
Sure.
I can feel.
What does your gut say?
My gut says that it would almost be sacrilegious for me to not take the points. You know what I mean? Because like technically those points could be worth so much more if I took the cash.
Yeah.
But like you asked this question as somebody else, like RJ, for example, he'd take that cash all day, I'm sure.
So let me rephrase it because I like where you're going with this. 50 million points or $500,000 cash.
God.
I'm super serious, because you can have real hard cash in your hand right now.
Dude, I think I want to say that I would take the points because I could still cash them out. But if they're in an ecosystem that you don't like.
No, so that's what this question is for you to answer. So, and I love to answer it right after you go, but I don't want to give you too many ideas,
Okay.
So you can cash it out 1-to-1. You can do that. So like a little hint here is, and there's no right answer, if you have chase points, cash them out 1-to-1, you get the same value. So what I'm trying to understand here, maybe if this helps your answer, you can do what you want, but I'm also looking at it like, for my answer, I guess I'm indirectly answering. It's okay, I'll go into it. I was struggling where I looked at it where, hey, what is the level of cash, like cold hard cash today, where, dude, all the points are awesome and I can still cash them out.
Yeah.
But there's something maybe that someone values about having real money. So if someone asks me $5 million cash or 50 million, now I'm like, that's a crazy example.
Right.
Or like whatever that math is of like 5, whatever, times 100 of points. Like that's where I'm like, man, might as well take the cash, then I'll figure it out. So I'm just trying to understand.
I think,
breaking point for you,
Yeah, you've helped me formulate a better answer here. I think, just like you said, if I think of my points, like I said at the very beginning of this, as a travel bank, how much money do I realistically need to travel in points? If you gave me 50 million points, I don't think I'd ever go through that to a degree, right? So maybe at that point, I would actually much more value the cash, especially in my situation where I don't have a house, I don't have all this stuff. I think that cash would help a ton. But if it was only $50,000 versus the, what'd you say, 5 million points, I think right now I would actually probably take the points in that situation. But once it gets past that, it becomes a lot easier to say cash, which might be counterintuitive in a sense because more points is better. Yeah. I think the cash out opportunity does make it tricky though. Like if you told me that I had to take Amex points and I couldn't have the Charles Schwab, all day I'm taking the cash. But yeah, it is a good question because you can go different ways with it.
Yeah. I was in this predicament. For your context, I had it wasn't that many, but like aggregate, like let's just say I've earned 3 to 5 million, like I have to sit there and count. So let's just say 5 million points in my case. I was like, okay, that's like 50K cash. I have like a video on the channel, and I actually want to remake it. It's like how I earned $100,000 plus, in rewards, like credit card rewards, and I could have done a lot better job at explaining everything. Point being, that's $100,000 like at 2 cents per point, 3 cents per point, whatever over time. So like 50K of cash points actually was worth more than 100K. But then the question came to me, I was like, man, 50K right in front of me. I mean, technically, if I just never touched it, what would I do? Then I started thinking like exactly why I asked you. I was like, am I thinking about it wrong, or was Team Cashback always correct from day one, like in a different way? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I think it depends on what you value, right? Like if you have something coming up that's big in your life, like for example, I don't have enough money for a down payment on a house right now. If I took $50,000, that would theoretically change my life in a sense.
Yeah.
Compared to the points where it's like I'm probably going to use those for travel.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of, I guess, dividing it in my head of travel being the points and cash being the actual cash you're offering, when in a sense the points could be used for cash. I don't know if I'd ever be able to sit there and cash out that many points though. And then that's because I'm a point hoarder to a degree,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and that's, I think,
I know.
a big issue that a lot of us have.
Right.
Hence why I'm also like, on my channel, I talk as if cent per point doesn't necessarily matter, because I think the bigger issue that people face is just actually using their points. People just like to sit on them for some unforeseen 10 cent per point redemption that they'll never do.
True.
I'd rather you just use your points. So in that sense, maybe the cash does make more sense. It's a good question though. I'd be interested to see what everybody says.
Yeah, like actually, I'd like to hear anyone who's come thus far.
Yeah.
Drop your thoughts in the comments down below.
I think the mathematical answer, if I was to do that, would be to always take the points, because if you're able to cash out at 1 cent per point, you have that optionality. So why cut off your optionality? I think that's the technical right answer. But if you slightly change that to saying like you couldn't cash out or something, then that completely changes the tide of it. So
True.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a full-time YouTuber?
Yeah. I mean, I am. You know, by definition, I am. I don't always call myself a YouTuber though.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like the biggest thing, where everybody asks me what I do, and I'm like, I don't really know how to explain. It depends on who I'm talking to. Right. I'm talking like my grandparents, I never would say I'm a YouTuber, but I own a social media business or something like that, or, you know, a media business. I learned that one from Daniel Braun. That's what he tells people, social media business. I'm like, that sounds better. But yeah, I guess by definition, I am a YouTuber full time.
All right.
Yeah.
Have you, before YouTube, and my understanding is like you were in corporate America for a little while, and so did you try anything else, you know, while you were still working or in college, like doing any other type of business activity before everything YouTube?
Yeah. You know, funny enough, YouTube's always kind of been my default for like trying to be like some kind of entrepreneur. Like whenever I was a kid, I used to make like skits and stuff with my friends, and I used to make gaming videos when I was a kid and all this kind of stuff. So like I've always been comfortable being in front of a camera, which is weird because I would classify myself as an introvert at heart. Like I recharge by being alone rather than like going out and partying and stuff. Like that's not really ever been my thing. But yeah, for some reason with a camera, I guess it's because it's a camera, it's not even a person. So maybe that's introverted enough for you. But as for other things that I've tried, I used to do like kind of side hustly stuff in college, especially. Like, I mean, I did some door dashing for a bit. You know, gotta do that grind. Especially in Austin, it was real easy. I did some plasma donations whenever I was like, oh, let's try to make some money. I wouldn't recommend doing that, by the way, if you're watching this.
Right, fair.
I mean, you can. Obviously, it's a good thing to do, but yeah, it was a lot.
Does it drain you?
Yeah, it's just like you're not supposed to do it too frequently, but then to make a lot of money, they force you to do it frequently.
Blood plasma?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like you would go in, and they would run promotions where say you had to do it like 10 times in 2 weeks or something crazy, or like a month maybe, say 10 times in a month. But then they would tell you to not do it more than like twice a week. But in order to get the promotion, you'd have to do it more than that. So like by the last one, I was like, yeah, I was getting dizzy. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Okay.
So it's not a side hustle I'd recommend, but hopefully it helps somebody out there. The plasma I gave. But yeah, no, I've never done any like the drop shipping or anything like it's a more classic side hustle. But I've always worked. I'll put it that way. I've always made money in some sense, and the side hustle of YouTube kind of came about in college, while I was also full-time student and then also working at an internship. But it was more of a sense of like, hey, I'm learning about this stuff. I'm spending all of my time doing it. I see people making videos on it. I feel like I can make those videos in my own way. Yeah. Why don't I at least try it and set myself up for the possibility of a future where I could work on my own terms? So that's kind of how the YouTube thing started. But I don't know if that really answered your question.
No, that's awesome. Like that explains a lot actually. Because if somebody doesn't do any version of side hustle or no main hustle or never had anything, they may want to wake up one day and say, I want to be a YouTuber, but like having that first action towards that next step may not ever happen just because, you know, they're not used to building momentum and discipline and having a routine and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's a big key, is having the discipline to do it. And I think I luckily formed that through all the jobs. Like I've been working since I was like 14, like for families and stuff, like family, friends who own businesses, because I don't think you're supposed to work until you're like 16, but like since then I've had a job basically. So that helped to teach me how to build my own discipline. I wouldn't say I was naturally born with it, but something you can develop over time, which is why I recommend that everybody does it. But yeah, if you don't have it and you try to be like an entrepreneur or YouTube business guy, it's tough because it's all on you, you know? Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. I love where that conversation would go. Yeah. I'll try to keep it more positioned. So why do you do what you do, whether that's YouTube day to day or any other disciplines you have? I don't know if you seem like you work out, things like this. So why do you do what you do? Like, what is your North Star, your purpose? When I say who is Spencer Johnson, I mean to say like, why do you do what you do as yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different answers I could go in that realm. I think if you would say like my guide, like my Northern Star, whatever you want to say, it all comes down to like my personal faith, which I don't know if you want to talk about that on your channel, but I'll just at a very surface level, it comes back to that. Like I have, I guess, hope in a better future for myself, and like while I'm here on this earth, I want to just do the most with what I've been given. So that's kind of like in every aspect of my life. Like I have a body that works, so I'm gonna work out and put it to the test. Like I'm gonna challenge myself there. When it comes to YouTube stuff or just business in general, I felt like in the corporate world I wasn't being pushed enough, or if I was being pushed, it was only to the means of supporting somebody else's pocketbooks and stuff. Like it wasn't exactly for me. Yeah. And I wanted to bring that more to myself, which that doesn't have as much to do with the religion, but more of the fact that I just have that driving force to live up to the potential that I think I might have. Yeah. And I would just hate to look back at the end of my life and be like, oh, I regret not trying that. And that kind of goes for everything. So yeah, I guess it's just like trying to live up to the potential that I think I have. And that comes through my faith, that I believe that, I've been given all these opportunities for a reason. So
yeah, I love that. I really resonate with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess what about you? How would you answer that? It's a tough one.
Yeah, no, it's not an easy one. And I think there's two ways to look at it. One is kind of looking within and then looking outwardly. I think over my experience in life that I've lived thus far, I think, and we all know it probably, like, catching up with the Joneses or like, certain ideologies or matching with society and, trying to impress others or just doing things for others versus yourself. That's like one perspective. So like I've learned that, okay, it could, if you're a celebrity, you got your audience or your stakeholders or clientele are the people watching you. Sure, right? That is like maybe one reason and how someone makes money and it keeps on going on. But I haven't seen the satisfaction of, maybe being the ideal person in everyone else's eyes, but then I can't live with myself maybe, or I'm not as free as I believe or otherwise. So definitely not doing it for like society or others. Like I want to benefit them because I'm one of, we're all the same, like benefit that way, but not doing it that way is what I've learned basically. The other way to look at it, I think just from morals, what do you call it, like ethics, culture, just how it was brought up, and what I align with is, being able to, provide basically, whether that's a direct family or to just everyone around me within reason, without like all the confines and the nuances of today's society, money, and all the negative things that are shown to light, but to really, nurture, take care, build up the next generation with whatever experience I can. I think about this quote from Alibaba's Jack Ma, where he's like, I don't remember it verbatim, but it's like in your 20s, you basically like learn and execute, like if it's a job or whatever skill you're learning. In your 30s, you refine that skill. In the 40s, you're like the number one at that point because you have like 20 plus years of experience. In your 50s, you start like kind of weaning away and teaching others, I think. And in your 60s, like anyhow, you end up teaching said skill or whatever your experience is. So I've seen like the come up from zero to like the top of something. So I'd love to give back, whatever, not like, be the old guy or like, please, listen to me because I know everything, but give back to society, however, not just like financially, but with anywhere else. Yeah. And like, faith, religion, and otherwise, like those are like always the overarching of everything. So I would say like, under those confines, if there's morals and ethics that come from there, it's kind of all aligned. Yeah. Because one lesson I learned young, and then we'll move on to the next question, is the way you don't want to make money or like earn resources in this world is, in today's like society with rules, like you don't want to do stuff where you always got to be looking over your shoulder a million times. And so that hit hard when I see others throughout life or stuff online. You're like, man, like you could have all these things, but who cares if you can't like take one deep breath and know everything's still okay, so I mean I could talk about that question for a while, but I know there's others that I might cover more on, so it's fair. I won't keep you going on this for too long. No problem. What does money mean to you? That's a tough one too, or it's just a deep question, I guess. To me,
I've obviously not been to the point where I guess I've earned so much money that I'm like enlightened past it. Like I still need money. Like it's still a means to an end. But for me, I think should be used as a tool, right? So like, I think that once I earn a certain amount, like a comfortable living, past that, it's more to like make the lives of people closest to me even better. That's like kind of how I think of it, which is why I think like even for the credit card game, going back to that, why I like the travel side of things, like why it sounds like you do as well, because you're able to give these experiences to other people. Yeah. So to me right now, like I don't think of money as ever being something I want to then buy me material things. Like I value experiences and memories much more than that. I think that comes back to like my upbringing as well, like you were kind of discussing. But like the most important things to me in life are my loved ones, especially like my family. Like that, at the end of the day, that's all that I feel like, you really have. And some people are dealt a really bad hand with that, which sucks. But I've been lucky enough to be able to, really rely on them. And if I was to come upon like a large sum of money, there's only so much that I think that could actually do for me before it just becomes a little bit kind of detrimental. So like I said, I think money to me is a tool to be used for one, just to get my basic needs covered, and then set myself up and then my future generations for a life that they don't really have to worry as much. Like I won't get into it too much, but growing up, I was I was raised by my mom, basically, like a single mother household, so she works a ton, and I can see what the lack of money forces you to do. Like, for example, working just double shifts, like working all the time, and I just don't want that to have to happen to my kids. So in that sense, that's why I think of money as being something that can help set people up for better futures, but at the same time should not be like what you focus all of your time and attention towards, because there's just so much more out there. Like at the end of the day, these days, money is just literally numbers on a screen for us.
Yeah.
So as long as I can just live, I don't really need much more than that,
Yeah.
Same with credit card points, really. It's like they're just numbers on a screen, but I love them, I guess. So
Right.
I don't know.
It's like the gamification and otherwise, but no, I think you hit on a point which I want to expand on, and I think that there's value to our viewers. It's basically like resonating. I was raised in a very similar fashion. It was like you could say singular parent, like different times. And when it came to money, there were times where we did maybe colloquially speaking, like the zero to hero, the come up, and then there were times where from the wealthy side, then actually cratering down and going up and down. And what that taught me, and like I'm currently at this very time of recording is like I'm working a corporate job, and the funny thing I joked to both my parents is like, hey, the way y'all earn money was through commission and sales and, maybe working minimum wage jobs, but it's basically working not in corporate America.
Yeah.
So why would, you put me down this path, or what's the angle, right? And, but obviously there are obvious reasons for that, because it's considered stable and blah, 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 blah. So, those things we don't need to cover, but I think seeing both of those experiences, what it's been able to teach me, which I'm sure maybe you've seen too, is like, I don't care if you're rich or poor or otherwise, but you can just meet whoever, whenever, and you can just be yourself, because what does anything really matter? Like you're saying, it's digits on the screen. So I don't know if that resonates with you. But.
No, it does. Yeah, I don't think that anybody should ever be treated differently because of the money that they have. Like in my personal life, I guess my goal with money would be to where I don't have to worry. I don't even have to think about it. Yeah. That's like the main ultimate goal with it. But after that, I don't care if I'm a billionaire or a millionaire. Like I don't care about those metrics as much. And I don't care if people around me are either. Like we're talking about here. I mean, we were talking about this earlier downstairs, but the fact that we're in a community of like-minded people, we all come from such different backgrounds, but we have this one like-minded interest, and we can just see how we're able to work so good together. Yeah. None of that has to do with money. I mean, maybe credit card points, but like that's not even. We don't talk about that. It's just like we just like enjoy spending time together and talking about these things. So that's what matters to me. I don't really care about the money at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like I'm making this adage or slogan up right now, but it's like I wish I could have so much money that I don't even need to think about said money, right? It's like how we take breathing air for granted, or drinking water, for example. But
yeah, it's like the Maslow's like hierarchy of needs or whatever.
The psychological needs.
Right. Yeah, and it's like once you get past that point of just survival.
Yeah,
what more do you really need?
All towards self-actualization and your inner self versus all the exterior.
Right, and you can get trapped in the exterior, which I would hope that I don't think I would ever get to that point, and that's where I think money can be very detrimental. But
I agree, and I think again, like I think it's what I've seen is like I've seen like our age group and even younger, but see stuff that maybe in your 40s, 50s, 60s you've never seen. Like I'm saying, like maybe kids with tons of cash in their bedrooms or whatever, just because like, a couple of years I went to school, let's say somewhere where that was the case.
Right.
And what I'm getting at is like seeing a lot of experiences early, but not like indulging or otherwise. It kind of takes away that pressure of, I need to do X, Y, Z when I have this, like I'm at this age, I need to buy a certain type of car, I need to live in a certain locale, but anyways, I digress.
Yeah, I think that's a good topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, I think my final answer is money is a tool. That's it. Yeah.
Fair. I got a personal YouTube related question
Okay.
I'm going to ask you now, and I'm looking for some advice.
Gotcha.
Sound
I'll
good?
do my best, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So I've been posting on YouTube, other than like 12-year ago video of me like beatboxing and these things on the channel. Recent more like personal finance content over multiple years. I started doing more like COVID, kind of taking one more stab at just doing everything YouTube. I used to have an acting background back when I was younger, and so I realized if someone hands me a script and everything's set up and editing wasn't a thing, I could just act just like I wanted to, and I know this job comes with a lot of other angles.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, whether it's corporate America, personal finance, credit cards, I do feel personally that I'm a lot ahead than someone who's maybe a beginner. And they say colloquially that, hey, if you're a beginner, someone who's just one step ahead or two steps ahead, they can learn the most from that person who's just ahead because they're not way too far ahead, and they can just get more, of what is the next immediate step I need to do and what are the possible ramifications or lessons to be learned.
Right.
So all this context to say for you, I feel like at this current moment I have like 60 plus personal plus business credit cards.
Yeah.
And what that means here is I feel like, and not just views, but impact usually is for, the beginner community of any community. So from a longevity, from business perspective, my expertise or otherwise like my type of content, where do you think there's value for potential viewers that maybe it's a bisection of that beginner community / my experience, or maybe just veterans? And the last cherry on top of detail I want to give you is I'm not really interested in scouring the news and making news-related content, day to day, week to week, because I'm interested in everything here in this field and it's gotten me a lot of value. And I want to give value back to the beginners or otherwise, but not really just talk about current events as like buying another job.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good thing that anybody can kind of take away if they've thought about starting YouTube in general, especially in the credit card niche, because to a degree we all are talking about the same things, but have very different perspectives on them. So like, how do you, I guess, make a name for yourself in a sense, and also like speak to what your experience actually has to say. So the way that I would personally go about it, especially as somebody like you, is you are somebody, like you said, with some of the most experience when it comes to at least applying for certain credit cards. Like you have like some of the most credit cards I've ever seen, probably the most that I've ever talked to as somebody personally. So what that means to me is, okay, you have experience that basically nobody else has with certain credit cards. So that gives you your unique, perspective right there. Like I plan on making a lot of videos this year about the cards that I currently have. I have 12 credit cards. I want to make personal reviews on these cards based on my experience. You have experience with 5 times as many cards as me. That's a lot more content than I can make, And also, when you think about it from like the person being 1 or 2 steps behind you, age-wise, we're not that far apart. And that also means that there are people that are a couple years younger than you, for example, that want to do exactly what you've done, but aren't able to do it because they haven't had somebody to speak to their perspective. So the vast majority of the market is able to be tapped by every single person depending on their experience. Like maybe I target more of the college age people because I'm just out of college and they resonate with me the most. But people that are say 25 trying to get into the credit card game, or think about it also, there's not that many people that really know the credit card game very well. And your perspective is at the very advanced level, but those people in your age demographic might still want this information. So I think that you are 1 or 2 steps ahead of people in a sense, if you want to think about it that way. But also you can think about it in this sense as maybe I'm somebody that's starting, speaking of me personally, starting from the beginning and documenting from that. You're at the end of the journey and looking backwards. That is the same like value and perspective, just on the flip side, if that makes any sense. So I think you should be talking more in the sense of how I get value from this credit card versus maybe me, who's at the very beginning saying like, oh, this is my first year with this card, I've gotten this much value. You're able to say, I've had this card for 7 years, like we were talking about earlier. It's like, that's so much more value than I can give on that perspective. So I think it is like an unfair advantage that you have of being as young as you are with as much experience as you have. And yeah, without getting into like too many details, I think that you do have something very unique to offer to people, and I would lean into that because as we get into more of the age too, where things can be easily replicated, especially with like AI, and that's a whole different topic. But I think the way that we're going to stand out from here on out is by sharing our personal experience, and you have some of the most of that. So it's like, how do I make videos based on that, where it's super easy to talk about? You don't have to go and research all these cards. You have these cards, so just talk about what you've actually used them for and your strategy. I think that's super entertaining, and you can make a video a week on that for an infinite amount of time. If you made one video on a card every single week that you have, you'd be good for over a year. And you could just do it every year. But no, that might get repetitive. But yeah, you know what I mean?
No, man, I appreciate that. I've been hitting like a wall of how, exactly this question.
Yeah.
And so I just thank you for elaborating on this.
Yeah. I just think that, I guess the short answer to all of that is I think that everybody has a unique perspective on this game. And that's what makes it to where everybody could make a channel about it. Like, yes, the facts are still there that the Chase Freedom Unlimited gives you X amount back in these categories. Yes, that's never going to be groundbreaking when you talk about that. But if you've been using that card for 5 years, maybe there's not that many people else out there that have done that. Like, you have a unique perspective on that I think people really want to hear. They don't care about the facts anymore. They care about hearing what people actually get value from based on these cards that we all talk about. So, yeah, I think you lean into that. That's what I would do. That's what I plan to do whenever I'm at your level,
Man, thanks, man.
Yeah, I do what I can.
Yeah.
But we'll see how good advice that actually is. Y'all tell me later after watching his content.
Definitely. Where do you see yourself a year from now?
Dang. I think I see myself doing basically the exact same thing in a sense. I do think that I hope that this YouTube career has a longer tail than people might initially expect. I mean, I've only been doing this for 2 years almost. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm still really young in this space. But I could see myself possibly adding more to it than just credit cards, if that makes any kind of sense. I don't know if that'd be on the same channel or whatnot, but I do see myself still being in the entrepreneurial creator space, and I hope to be doing that for 10 years. I hope to be doing that for as long as I can until something else maybe comes up. But I've really just been trying to open myself up to as many opportunities as possible, connecting with as many people as possible, and maybe something comes up in the next year that I have no idea about. And honestly, on that note, if I think about a year ago from now, I hadn't even quit my job yet. I was still working and trying to do this on the side, and had I think three or so thousand subscribers at this point. If you would have told me that I'd be here today where I'm at, I wouldn't have believed you. So it's I really don't know what I'm going to be doing in a year, but I hope that I stay consistent with this. And if at the end of this year I saw that I posted, at least a video a week, and my community was still growing and I was providing value, that's all I could really ask for. That's on the business side of things. When it comes to life in general, I've always lived in Texas. We've been talking about this. I might be living in a different state in a year. You never know. Yeah, I mean, I'm a single person right now. Maybe at that point I won't be. But yeah, I guess I'm really going back to our conversation we had earlier, I do believe that there's some plan already set out for me, and I'm just kind of trying to, pour into that as much as I can and just live, So yeah.
Damn. So, are we allowed to say damn?
I don't know. Sure.
Yeah, whatever. So, what is your rich life? And just some context for anyone who's not heard this. Basically, what comprises of your day to day, or what do you like to do? Activities, money. You can still be going to a job if you love it, and afford your life outside of that job, or you have all the money and you can just do whatever you want with your day to day. So, what is that future day to day ideal one look like for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna think of this on the sense of well, I mean, I guess you're asking the question. I'm the one that's the whole point of this question. But I think my rich life is going to be where I feel the most wealthy, you can put it. And I'm not talking about money here, but where I feel the most fulfilled is going to be, I think, once I have a family and I'm settled down to the point where I hope to be doing, this is a big reason I hope to be doing stuff like this, and maybe I should have said this earlier, but I would really love to be able to provide for my family while being super present. That's something that I wish maybe that I was able to have more, we were kind of talking about earlier. It's tough for a single mom, but then whenever the parents are divorced and my dad wasn't as much in the picture, I would like to be in the picture for my kids a lot more. So if I could work from home, or if I could do something like this where I don't have to work as much, hopefully in the future. Right now I'm working way more than I initially thought you would as a YouTube business, but that would be more of my rich life, where I'm able to spend as much time with my kids as I want, taking vacations as much as possible, hopefully still in the credit card game, like churning away, or not allowed to say that on YouTube, but nobody's watching this one. But yeah, no, I think it's really going to be coming down to like quality time with the people that I love. And that seems to be something that's resonated with me throughout my whole life, whether that's friends, or family. I really gain a lot of just joy and like perspective from the people closest to me. So as long as I can maximize the time with them, like that is really my rich life. And like I said before with the money, like I would like to be able to not have to think about it. Yeah. So, but if that also means that I'm working a job that, like say I stuck in the engineering world like I was doing, and I did that until I was retired. If I could make that same amount of money doing something else but working a lot less hours, like that is golden to me. I don't really have the aspirations of being a multi-millionaire because of YouTube. I'd rather just live very comfortably and continue to build a tight-knit community and take it from there,
Nice.
Yeah.
I think this question probably answers itself based on what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you see 40-year-old Spencer Johnson? What is he up to? What is he, what's going on, man?
Yeah. I mean, I would hope that, like I said before, like it's a lot of time spent with my kids. Like at that point, say I had kids at 30 or whatever. I don't know when I would have kids, but yeah, they'd be at the age where they're doing sports and stuff like that. Yeah. I think it'd be really fun to like be present for that and be coaching it or doing whatever. I don't know what my career would look like at that point. If I'm being completely honest, I have no idea. Because I think this YouTube thing is great. I think it's like a beautiful thing. You can monetize like any of your passions if you really wanted to. But does 40-year-old me see myself making credit card videos? That would be 20 years making credit card videos? I don't know if I'm going to be doing that. Right. It would be kind of cool though. That'd be a pretty cool story. But yeah, I guess we just don't really know how that's going to evolve. But I do think that whatever job I have, like I said, I'd want it to be as, I don't want to say remote as possible, but like just as self-sustaining maybe, to the point where I could take time off whenever I wanted to spend time with my kids and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll make one remark and then ask a question before I leave it up to you to close this out.
Uh-oh.
So my quick remark is going to be, so in the year 2039, I'm going to see a title of like, I've made credit card videos for 20 years.
Dude, that'd be kind of sweet, honestly.
Yeah, it's one of those. That's like a time, like, you know what I mean? Like
the Mr. Beast, like, hi to my, like, whatever.
Yeah, like how it's like
being 10
Mr.
years.
Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that type. So the question I have for you, before you just address everyone who's watching, who's actually came this far, so thank you for coming literally almost to the end here, is what was like an age where you think, your kind of higher self or like the subconscious, I don't know the scientific terms, but you're like, okay, I'm like alive, you're not just like existing in the ether, if that makes sense. You know what I'm trying to say?
Like from my past or in the future?
No, like, when you're like, from your past. And so like, for example, like when you're like 11 years old or whatever, you're like, oh, like you're more conscious about yourself, right? Like, or like your brain turns on, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Moment. What age were you like around?
Dude, I don't even know. I have like some really weird memories from when I was like really young, but I also think that to a degree, I have to be reminded of my childhood to like bring things up, which probably is not a great thing. But
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
so let me fast forward then. Okay. I understand where you're coming from. So the final question is, if you could tell, and your younger self would believe this, that it was the future you saying this, if you could give one line or a paragraph or a few bullets of like, wisdom or not like invest in Bitcoin and those type of things, like that's cool and all, but like what would you say that probably would resonate with the younger Spencer Johnson, period? Take your time, no rush.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Bullet point wise, well, let me just think, like, off the top of my head, what I would probably say is just, for one, I think it's always important to tell, like, my younger self especially, that everything will be okay. Like, everything is going to be worked out at some point. Because back then, it's like, I was a very anxious child, I think, which, probably isn't a healthy thing, but that's just, like, how I grew up. I was just always worried about the future, and I don't think that you really need to. Like, I do think now, like I said, my perspective has changed to where I do think that there is a plan out there for me, and I'm just living in it and doing the best that I can with what I'm given. I didn't obviously have that concept back then. So that'd be one, is just that like everything will be okay. I think also it's just like to pursue whatever passions like you have right now and just like actually fully pursue them. Because obviously I wouldn't be here if I didn't do that, And I guess that might not be for my younger self, but to other people that might want to get started on whatever journey they have. It's just like I said at the beginning of this or earlier, I would hate to look back at my life and be like, man, I wish I would have tried that. So that's another big thing I would probably tell my younger self, is to just pursue it. And then also I think just take a chance on yourself too is a big one, because it kind of goes in line with that second one, but you can pursue a passion with no real intent of ever making it into like a career or anything like that. But with this YouTube business, with a lot of things I've done in life, I feel like I've taken that one chance on myself to say like, hey, if it's all on me, what can I do with this? And I think that's a very powerful thing that's built a lot of character in my life, and will continue to through this YouTube thing. I mean, it's not a stable job necessarily, and there's a lot of ups and downs with it, but I think you got to give yourself that chance to really see what you're made of. And I guess at the end of the day, yes, you maybe do have your family, but you really only have yourself, so you got to be comfortable with yourself. And yeah, so building that character in that way I think is important. But
No.
I don't know if that's a good answer or not.
That's a great answer. So with that, close us out. What do you want the people to know?
Well, I know for one that you need to be subscribing to this guy. That's the number one priority. If you're coming from my channel especially, and you haven't seen his content, check it out. I mean, I don't really have any calls to action for myself. I just hope that y'all, if you're at this point of the video, I mean, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Because it's a long one, but
Yeah.
but no, I would just say thank you for watching, and also thank you again for coming down to meet me and setting all this up, and it's been great. So I'm just excited to have gotten to do it.
On that, we'll close this out.
Yep.
Boom.
There we go.
See you guys in the next one. Peace.